Okay, hello, Cikgu Mohana. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Okay, good afternoon to everyone. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon for our session on engaging the 21st century learners in language learning, developing the reading and writing skills. Okay. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it is my great pleasure to introduce Mr. Mohana Ram Murugiah, our presenter for for sharing this afternoon. Let me just say a few things about Mr. Mohana first, introduce him to you. Okay, Mr. Mohana Ram Murugiah is an English language master teacher teaching at Methodist Girls Secondary School in IPOH. Yeah? He holds a postgraduate degree from the University of Nottingham. His journey of 1,000 miles into teaching began 18 years ago, and he wears multiple hats as a teacher, debater, storyteller, material writer, and researcher. Okay, conferences, workshops, and projects have taken him to a number of different countries, including United States of America, Singapore, Indonesia, India, and Thailand. He has also received several prestigious awards locally and internationally. To name a few, he was awarded the Top English Language Teacher Award in 2015 during the International Conference on English Teaching in Malacca, and the Basil Vijaya Surya Silver Award in 2017 and 2018 during the Malta Conference. Okay, and in 2019, he was awarded the Global Teacher Award in New Delhi, India. Wow, quite a number of awards, huh? Cikgu Mohana, congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, so I would like to take this opportunity to thank Mr. Mohana for accepting our invite to conduct this session, knowing your tight schedule and your tight schedule, but he accepted our invite. So thank you very much for that, Cikgu Mohana. Okay, teachers, just to inform you before we start with our session today, at the link for attendance and feedback will be shared at the end of the session. Okay, and if you do have any questions, please type out your questions at the chat column, and I will read out the questions to Mr. Mohana later on. Okay, so without any further ado, without any delay, I pass over this slot to Mr. Mohana.
Hello, everyone. Very good afternoon. First of all, thanks to Miss Regina and Puan Swaran for inviting me to PPD MIRI, although it's virtual. I'm glad to do a sharing with teachers in Sarawak, because Sarawak is always close to my heart. Because my humble beginning as a teacher started in Sarawak like 18 years ago. In 2013, I started as a teacher in SMK Bintulu, Sarawak, and I've made quite a lot of friends in Sarawak. So, and I'm glad today to see some of you, some familiar faces. And this is like, after so many years, I'm conducting a workshop for teachers in MIRI. So it's like I'm seeing some many new faces and some familiar faces. So glad to be back to MIRI Sarawak and happy to see all of you. So teachers, for today's session, what we are going to look at is, I'm going to just share with you some of my practices. Okay, so I know many of you are quite, what I would say, worried, or your concerns will be, how are we going to tackle the SPM students this year? So I'm not going to focus, and I'm not going to share with you on specifically on SPM, how to answer SPM questions. But I'm going to share with you what are the things that we can do right from the beginning, so that when we move towards SPM revision towards the end of the year, after we have completed using the textbooks and completed the syllabus, what can we do after that? Okay, so for now, at this point of time when we are doing our classroom teaching, so we all know that the aim of the Ministry of Education is not to dwell too much on the examination policy or examination-driven teaching. That is why I do not want to teach you how to teach you for how to teach for examination, but instead how to make classroom activities fun, engaging. At the same time, we are also preparing students for SPM. There's nothing new. If you have really explored the full blast textbook or the English textbook, you would have come across a lot of things or skills or ideas that is that is very well synchronized with our reading and writing marking scheme. I'm sure end of last year, somewhere, 2020, all of us have attended a course on marking SPM 2021, right? And we all have our marking schemes on how to do the marking, and we have trained to mark. So I'm not going to go to that area. So we have done, I'm not going to bore you with such things. It's just that how we can align our classroom teaching towards CEFR aligned teaching, as well as how to actually prepare our students for SPM while having our normal classroom lessons. Okay, sorry, yeah, I'm using two devices here. Okay, so now if you see our English textbooks, yeah, our English textbook, be it the Form 1, Form 2, or Form 3, or Form 4, and Form 5 textbook, all the textbooks, the secondary textbooks, okay, I do not know much about the primary, but I think as well. The textbooks are designed for us to carry out classroom activities which involve the 21st century skills, the four main skills in the 21st century, which is the communication, collaboration, creative thinking, and critical thinking, where it focuses all this in the and it has separated all the four skills here: speaking, listening, reading, and writing. And now, if you see our textbook, it's good to have your textbook with you, yeah, as I speak, so that when we go page by page, looking at the reading and writing activities, we can actually discuss. Okay, we can actually look at the task and we can discuss how it is actually designed and how we can actually work on preparing our students for SPM through our classroom activities. Now, before I my classroom activities, now this is just one part from our reading and writing scheme for what you say, instruction for writing examiners that we were given to us last year. Okay, instruction. This is one part from the instruction for writing examiners that I took. So if you see here, this is the highest score given for task 1, task 2, and task 3 for writing. So if you see our SPM 2021, the writing task, there are 3 writing tasks. Okay, task 1, writing an email, right? And task 2, we have a short, writing a short description and in about 100 words. And the third one is you have to select one from 3 essays given. Now, if you see, all the 3 questions have been pitched at different level. So, for example, the first one, which is writing an email in about 80 words. Okay, writing an email in about 80 words. So, if you see in that task, you are supposed to just write an email in about 80 words without, you see, the level given here is a B1. So, if the level here given a B1, what do you think? Do you think that students need to put the app vocabulary or the difficult words, or what is the so-called the bombastic word? Do the students need to use that? Now, if you see, the SPM writing task is only about 1 hour 30 minutes. Okay, students can't be too ambitious. This is not like the previous format, SPM 2020. Yeah, the previous one where you have only 2 papers. We have one directed writing and another one continuous writing. Okay, but this one you only have 1 hour 30 minutes, and you have to plan your time properly, because you can complete all the 3 essays in time and score well. Now, if you use the language, the same language level that you use in B1 without any improvisation, if you see here, the same language level that you use for task 1, if you use for task 3, you will get only 4 marks in total. If you see here, meaning to say, as the task goes on, task 1, task 2, and task 3, as the task moves from one task to another task, the language level that the student need to use also need to be improved. So meaning to say, for task 1, when the student answer the email, all they have to do is, in about 80 words, they just need to answer the questions. For example, if the question has, if the task requires students to answer 3 questions: where to go, what time to meet, and what to bring. Let's say these 3 questions. The students need to answer only these 3 questions in about 80 words. And if the language is simple enough at level, they can score 5 and 5 and 5 and 5 for all the 4 components in marking, which I mean content, communication, organization, and language skills. Okay, that is B1. So if you see, if you have weak learners, you can actually work with them on this part very easily. Okay, now the next one, task 2, if you see, task 2 is pitched at B2, meaning to say the language needs to be a little bit slightly better, meaning to say you need to put some improved vocabulary, okay, and complete to get the highest score, which is at B2. So if you see, the part 2 is already at a B2 level. And the last task, where you have to select 3 what I would say, from 3 questions, you have to select 1. So when you are given 3 questions and the 3 questions you have to select 1, what happened here is you are given a choice, and this is a more complex essay where you have to write about 200 to 250 words. This is where students need to put in all their language skills to get the highest score. It's not easier for task 3 to get the highest score, which is 5, 5, 5, and 5. So this is basically the marking scheme and range. Okay, I would say a summarized table on the marks that students may get for the marking. Okay, for the language level for SPM writing. Right, so I'm not going to explain more in detail about this. Now let us look what can be done with to improve this. Now, if you see our marking scheme, the SPM marking scheme, it is very clear, yeah. It is very clear that students need to use cohesive devices. Students need to use certain variety of vocabulary. Okay, and then you need to use communicative skills, communicative writing skill. I mean, yeah, the communicative writing skill. So all these are very important. So as we teach our students to write in classroom, these are the things that we need to be focusing on. Now, for example, this is from Unit 2, yeah? Unit 2 from the Full Blast textbook. Unit 2 from the Full Blast textbook, page, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, yeah, sorry, Unit 1, page 13. Writing a personal web page. Okay, this is a very simple task. Okay, this is a very simple task where students are given an example, a sampler. Okay, and based on this sampler, students need to write their to create their own personal web page. Now, if you see, this is very much close. Okay, if you see the things are very since this is the first part, as I say, Unit 1 of the textbook, Form 4, meaning to say the during the transition period from Form 3 to Form 1, Form 3 to Form 4, the students will start with Unit 1, which is actually quite a simple unit. Okay, and the beginning unit, it starts with a variety of activities, and the first writing part would be writing a personal web page. Okay, this task is very much close to the task A in SPM writing paper. Okay, where you probably need to write a simple email. Okay, so the skills that students learn here, when they write a personal web page, can also be used to write an email. For example, if in your email you're going to talk about your if your question asks you to write anything about your school, anything about clothes, this is where the students can get the ideas from the beginning. Now, another thing that you can always focus here is, you see, one good thing I like about our textbooks because for every unit, the writing task, we have a sampler, meaning to say we have an example. So students can actually refer to this example. You do not need to think of writing a sample essay. You can just take this, for example, you can just reprint this, or you can just retype the whole essay again, and then work out with your students what are the things that you want your student to focus. Now, for example, when I did this task with my student, the first thing that I focused was writing an essay using simple present tense. Now, if you see this personal web page, it comes in simple present tense. And if you see, the unit mostly uses, most of the part in Unit 1 uses simple present tense as well. Okay, except for the grammar part, like it goes to past tense. Now, if you see the my mates and I and my interest, a lot of ideas here have been developed using simple present and present continuous. Now, what you can do is when you teach this part, you can actually ask students to focus. Okay, the sentence starters, how the student, the web page has a sentence starters, how the idea has been developed. And yeah, don't teach your students to copy, but teach your students, if you have very weak students, ask them to develop with some modification. Weaker our student is, the more support that we have to give. What kind of support we give? Support in terms of simplifying the task, make it simpler for them. You don't have to ask them to write 100 words if they are very weak. This is unit 1. If they can actually write about themselves in about 50 words or 40 words for a very low proficiency group, very weak students, it is something that is, I would say, great. I mean, very weak students, right? But if you have advanced students, okay, so this is how we can plan. Now, if you are going to rely 100% on this for advanced students, now it might be too simple for your advanced students. So you need to bring in some extra ideas or some extra tasks to make the task a little bit more challenging for them. Okay, and for the weaker one, we can make it, we can simplify it for them. That's when that's what we call differentiation, right? Scheme of work also has a suggested differentiation, but so for different lessons they have different differentiation, but you can modify the differentiations according to the students that you are teaching. What kind of student do you teach? You know your students better, and what I'm sharing here may not be 100% fit, may not be 100% fit, what I would say, may not be 100% be able to be with your students, because your students may not be able to do the stuff that I'm giving here. So maybe you need to make some changes, you need to simplify it, or you need to do it in a slightly in a different approach with your students, especially if you have low proficiency learners. Now, what I did with my high proficiency learners was, okay, this is what I did. I put them in group. Okay, this was last year before MCO, yeah. Before we move into a new norm, yeah. So if you see there's no face mask, yeah, so don't report me that I'm doing lessons without students wearing face masks. Okay, this is last year, somewhere in January last year. Okay, so what I did was I completed the task, writing a personal web page. You see, with a good class, this lesson, if you do it for 1 hour continuously, it will be boring. So you need to change into some activities. So after going through the web page, discussing the language form and functions, and then talking about B. So what I did was, the next 30 minutes, I asked the students to come up with their personal web page in the form, in a mahjong paper. Okay, a personal web page in a mahjong paper. So students were asked to work in a group of 4. Okay, so mind you, this is a good class. Okay, this is a good class. So if you have a good class, you can work this out with them. So, and they were also given a reminder, what are the things need to be included in their essay. Now, this is when you have to remind them the language part. Okay, we do not just ask them to write, but we remind them, we give them the language guide. What are language guide? First, we have to tell them, you see, you have to use in present tense. Okay, you need to use cohesive devices. Okay, you need to write in paragraphs. Okay, and you need to use certain vocabulary. Now, these the things that you are telling your students, the cohesive devices, right from the beginning, yeah, right from the beginning in Unit 1 in Form 4, these are the things that you are going to build throughout the year. When they do reading, then they do writing, when they do listening, when they do speaking, all these they need to use. So when you use, you teach writing, writing skill. So these are the things that you need to remind them. Make sure they have it in their essays. Make sure they have it in their essays. Make sure they use them. Okay, meaning to say, practice right from the beginning. Okay. Now this is an outcome from my students' work. Okay, you see some of them, they did very well. It looks very nice, but it may not have fulfilled what I have required. So if you see, there are a lot of pasted notes on their presentation. So what happened was, after student has completed their lesson, their posters, they just put it up on the whiteboard. Okay, so I had 32 students, so there were 8 altogether. So they were 8 together. They will grow from group to group, and they would identify where is the use of cohesive devices, what type of vocabulary they use, grammar, is there a transition between simple present tense and past tense, and if there is a transition, is that required? Okay, transition means suddenly for one sentence is in simple present tense, suddenly another is in simple past tense. Is that relevant or not? Okay, so these are the things that you start building. Okay, so for unit 1, it is very simple. Okay, students need to only use build simple sentences, and sometimes they build complex sentences. Okay, but if you have advanced students, they would come out with even words that you never heard of. Right? Even those are the kind of students that you need to cater these kind of activities to. Okay. Now this is an activity I did this year because when we did unit 1, we were all still on doing online learning. So their web page, I asked them to design from canva.com. So I asked them to take a presentation template from canva.com, and I asked them to put in, and then they submitted to me their work through Google Classroom. I give comments, I share with their friends. We had a discussion in Telegram, what can be improved. Okay, so this is what you can start from. Okay, now obviously I'm only sharing the good students' work. Yeah, I'm sharing the good work. Yeah, I also have the not so good work, but I want to show you the best examples. Okay, so these are the one from the good classes. So if you see these web pages, now this is where you build your students' writing skill. Okay, I understand that many of us may not have students who can write as well as this. So what can we do? We can always give them sentence starters. We can give them sentence starters. For example, my family. Okay, my mates. Okay, you can give them, for example, even if students do not know how to write my name is, okay, so this is where you can start. My name is, ask them to fill in the blanks first. I like to complete. Okay, I love to. Okay, use all these sentence starters, or you can just take a sentence starters from your textbook, from page 13. Okay, if you see the Ahmad's web page, I've got lots. Okay, so you see I've got loads. Okay, so you just can take that as a sentence starter. I've got loads of what? I find what? We spend what? We are always what? Okay, so these are the sentence starters that you can list on your whiteboard and ask students to complete. And if this is too difficult, you can even simplify it. My name is, I like to, my hobby is what? Okay, so if the hobby is like playing computer games, okay, does he play with another friend? Okay, so these are the things that you can add. So the first task is where you start your scaffolding immediately. Okay, with all the activities, okay, involving. So if you see every activity that we do in our classroom concerning the textbook, okay, when we use the textbook, this is actually helping students to build the skill to write an essay for SPM. So you do not need to specifically take an SPM reference book and do unit. Okay, look at SPM unit 1. Okay, SPM task A. Okay, let's do task A. Do SPM task B. Don't do that. We are not supposed to do that. Okay, it's just like, okay, let me give you an example of a mathematics lesson. So what happens? Students learn mathematics from the skills activities, teacher-student activity, or teacher-centered activity, or student-centered activity. Teacher uses mathematics textbook to teach the skills. And when it comes near the exam, the teacher, whatever skills that learned from the textbook and practice from the textbook are applied into the examination practice. So that is what I'm trying to say here. Whatever that is learned from the textbook can actually be applied into the examination practice. We shouldn't be jumping into examination practice right now, okay? Because students will only understand what examination is without mastering the skill. Our aim under CEFR is we want to enable our students to master the 4 skills. They should be able to speak independently, write independently, listen independently, and read independently, meaning to say they can master various skills under that one skill. For example, for writing, it has a lot of skill. For example, you need a certain skill for narrating. You need a certain skill for compare and contrast. You need a certain skill to write advantages and disadvantages. These skills students need to master first. After mastering these skills, when you do the examination practice, you can relate whatever you have done in your classroom to the examination practice, which would make things easier. All right. Now, so this is one example. Let me show you another example. Okay, this is another example. So another one student, she did not have a computer and she find it difficult to do it online. Okay, she find it difficult to do it online because she only had laptop. She attended all her classes only on laptop. Sorry, not laptop, handphone. Okay, she only had a handphone, so she had difficulty doing it on handphone. So I told her it's okay. You just do it on an A4 paper, your web page, and then send it to me. So this is one example. And another one is this. Okay, so if you see, this is also a writing task. Okay, there are some errors here, but I'm giving you the raw materials. Yeah, I'm showing you the raw material, whatever the student has submitted to me. Now, so this is the first one, writing task. Okay, so the next thing is, okay, so if you see the next another writing task we are going to look today is unit 4, yeah, 4B, which is pros and cons of team sport. Okay, this might come under task 3. This might come under task 3 in task 3 in your SPM question. Okay, so if you see, how did I do this? This was, I want the students to understand the structure of the essay first. Okay, I want the students to understand the structure of the essay first. So what I did was, I did a information transfer activity with the students. Okay, you see, for SPM writing, we have content, communicative achievement, we have language, and we have one more. What was it just now? Yeah. Organization, yes, we have organization. So this one comes into the organization part. Okay, this one comes into the organization part. So now you look at this. Okay, so okay, as I said earlier, one thing good about the Form 4 and Form 5 textbook is they all have samplers. So I make a full use of the samplers. Okay, I make a full use of the samplers so that the students will get an idea of what is expected from them. So I do give them some other sample essays as well, but I make sure I fully utilize whatever content that is given to me in the textbook. So one of my extended activity from the writing task was, I gave them a task sheet where they need to transfer information from the text, which is on page 62, the entire text. They have to get information and then they transfer it into the text box given. So if you see the text box, they have to identify the advantages, and then they have to identify the disadvantages, and then they have to identify the writer's opinion, and also they need to look at the language functions, which is to express contrast, to give example, to give opinion, to express result and consequences, to express purpose, to summarize, and to express one's own opinion. Now, if you see, these are some examples. These are some things that they need to identify in the text. Now, why am I focusing this? Okay, so organization is also important. Organizing ideas is also important when it comes to SPM writing. So when do you teach organizing the ideas in an essay? Not when you do the drilling for SPM, but when you are teaching them how to write essay for discussing advantages and disadvantages. So if you see here, the task was designed as such. Okay, now what did I do was, I did this with my students. Okay, this is their earlier task. Okay, after they have completed this, the next task given to them was, okay, the next task given them, okay, the writing task that is been given here is, what are the advantages and disadvantages of team project at school? So based on this, they have to write their own essay, another essay, which is the task for them, that was, what are the pros and cons of team sports? Pros and cons on team sport. So in order for them to be able to write this essay, the pros and cons of team sport, if you see it here, they need to first understand how the essay need to be structured. So when they did this information transferring activity, they automatically learn the structure of the essay. So you're keeping this idea, I also ask them to develop their own charts or their own way of organizing or organizer. Okay, to put their ideas into an organizer so that I can see what are their ideas before they write their essays. So if you see here, this is one example. This is another example. She has pros and cons in point forms, and each of it she has 3, and then she has the author's opinion at the end. So this is another one. Okay, introduction, pros and cons, and then the opinion. Okay, pros and cons of team sport. So this is one example. Okay, so this is one example that I have given to the students. Okay, now once they're done with this, then only then the students would start to write their essays. Okay, if you see here, they put the ideas here. Now, after they have got the ideas, then I discuss with them how to put in the cohesive devices. Okay, so Sampler would help them to write their own essays. At the same time, they need to come up with their own ideas. That is how we should develop the writing skills in our students. And this same idea would help them to write an essay if they were to asked to write an article in their SPM on the pros and cons of a team sport. Let's say they are given a question. Okay, you are writing a review, an article for a sports magazine. Write an article entitled "The Pros and Cons of Team Sport." Okay, in about 200 to 250 words. So how do they get the idea of writing the pros and cons? Where do they get the structure of writing the pros and cons? So this is when the structure comes in. Okay, now for low proficiency learner as well, okay, you don't have to look at the language to be very complex, but you need to simplify them. You don't expect something like what I've shown you here. Probably you can make a table, or you can just give them a chart like this and ask them to write on their own for the pros and cons as well. Okay, they may not be able to produce something that is very outstanding, but with guidance, I believe, with guidance, giving them an outline like this, with guidance like this, they would be able to produce something. Okay, so this is an example of another task, another writing task. So before I move on to the next task, any question?
Any questions, teachers? Yes, no questions.
No questions. Okay, no problem. All right, I just continue. Okay, so this is one way I have been doing. Yeah, this is one way I have been doing my lesson with my students. I try to come up with something like this, some scaffolding activities to ensure they master the skill. So keep in mind, it's not just about writing anything or everything. It's mastering the skills, getting the things right. For example, the use of proper vocabulary, the use of proper organization of ideas. Okay, all these need to be given needs to be given importance when you're teaching writing. Okay, so that is for writing an essay. Now let us look at another task. Okay, so this is one essay on writing a description of a person. So probably this is the task 2. Okay, task 2 of SPM paper, writing paper, task 2. So one thing that is this task important for SPM? Yeah, it is important. How can it help to build writing skill? So if you see this one, they are supposed to write about a person they admire. So describing a person. So meaning to say, based on this essay, they need to come out and write about someone they admire. Okay? Okay, so this is also the same. It's almost the same. You can use the key ideas given in the essay and then develop the task. For example here, if you have low proficiency learners, okay, scaffolding and samples are crucial so that they could understand and have something to rely on. Now, if you may use mind map to develop skill, but if they are really weak, okay, look at this. This is what I call writing prompt. This is what I call a writing prompt. Now, if you have very weak students, this is what you can do. Okay, getting them to complete the writing prompt. Okay, writing prompt, and then how many words you want, what are the details need to be added. You see, when you are teaching low proficiency learners, you need to do a lot of things like this, you know. You cannot rely only on the textbook. We cannot rely only on the textbook. Honestly, okay, a lot of people think that I'm teaching in Methodist Girls' School, IPOH. Okay, when they hear Methodist Girls' School, IPOH, people think that I'm teaching in a very good school. But sad to say, I also have very weak students. I have a class of students who are very weak. Okay, and some of you might have a school of students who are very weak. Okay, you might be telling that to yourself right now. So what we can do is, we cannot be too ambitious and we cannot take everything from the textbook. We have to use the textbook. At the same time, the task that they are going to do, we need to simplify. At Form 4 level, you don't ask them to write this essay in about 400 words. Maybe you simplify it for them. For if they are very weak students, ask them to write in about 40 or 50 words. And if you want to build this skill, when you have your teacher-based lesson in your classroom, you can further work on these tasks to improve your students' writing skill. Wait, let me turn to the page. Yeah. Okay, so if you are working with your students on this task, okay, look at this. Writing a description of a person. Okay, the person I admire the most is, for example, okay, my mother. The name of the person, my mother, Madam Maheswari, for example. She is a what? Okay, she is a nurse who used to work at at the IPOH General Hospital, for example. Okay, she is the most hardworking person I have ever known. Okay, you see, the I know means I change I have ever known to my sentence suitability. So this is how you can teach your students to write. So meaning to say, you can have this as a sampler, this essay as a sampler. At the same time, you can also give another example, a simpler one, to help low proficiency students to rely on that, and based on that, they can write. Okay, so this is what I call as writing prompt. I use writing prompt, this type of writing prompts a lot with my weak students. Like almost every unit, I have one set of writing prompt like this, which I use with them. But this is not filling the blanks, yeah? This is not filling the blanks. My writing prompt, for example, the person I admire the most is, I just don't want them to write name, okay? Or sometimes I even shorten it if I know the students can handle it. So I just start with the person. Okay, just give them the 2-word starter. If they are weak, if I know they won't be able to handle with the 2-word starter, probably I give them a 5-word starter. Okay, depends on them. But it's not filling in the blanks, meaning to say, once they complete all this thing, probably each of the sentences, I may ask them to add in supporting details. Okay, I may ask them to add supporting details to develop writing skills. Okay, now for weak students, for low proficiency students, one way for us to do it is, as I say, you can do this, or you can also do a mind map. For example, you can take a picture of, put a circle, and then you ask them to draw. What map is that? I forgot. Okay, you have lines at the corner, and then each of it one characteristic, and then they have to elaborate based on each of the characteristic. That is one mind map you can use. Okay, we all know, if we are teaching low proficiency students, these are the support materials that we can give. I'm not asking my students to copy essays. I'm not asking my students to memorize essays. I've already told them I'm not going to ask you to memorize essays for SPM. These are the skills that I want you to master. So meaning to say, these are the things that I want them to complete when I'm doing this unit with them. And if I find it to be there is something that I need to develop from here, what I would do is I would actually I would actually take the teacher-based lesson, or the non-textbook lesson, I would call it the non-textbook lesson, to actually develop further on this writing task. I won't do anything new. Okay, and if you see the full blast and English download textbook, it comes with workbook, and the workbooks have similar activities, similar writing activities. For example, for full blast, write a description of a person, and the same task, if you look at the same full blast workbook, it would come about writing a description about a person, and you are supposed to write about your mother. So if you do based on this textbook and the workbook, if you do these two activities, I'm sure by the end of the unit 2, you would have known how to, the most simplest way students would have learned how to write a description of a person. That is what we want. Okay, that is what we want. Now, another activity, okay, I have the task for this. It says that the students work I forgot to bring, so but I just share with you what I did with this task here. This task is on page 32. Page 32, writing task. Okay, this is a student are supposed to write a story. Okay, an international magazine has organized a short story competition, and you have decided to enter. The competition rule says that the story must begin or end with the following words. Susan will never forget what happened that day. Okay, and if you see on the screen, what given to you is is an example of an essay. This is not very long. This is just a very simple essay, but for 1 hour, you can actually work a lot of things. You can teach a lot of things here, from vocabulary, from sentence structure, cohesive devices, writing style. You can teach a lot of things that are essential for SPM writing. Okay, unit task 3, for writing task, SPM writing task, part 3, the selection from, you select one from the 3 questions. One of it is always a narrative, I think. Yeah, there is always a narrative. So there will be a narrative. So you can think of how to write a narrative here. Now this, okay, so for, you see, the task here is very simple. Okay, now one thing, what I did was I explored the task with my student. First, we read together. After we have finished reading, we start looking into the details. First, we look into vocabulary. Now, what vocabulary we found out was, we came across the triple emphasis at the beginning of the sentence. So you see the triple emphasis, it was cold, dark, and quiet. So we explored a little bit of triple emphasis. Okay, for example, I told my student, okay, if you want to describe Mr. Mohana, you can say tall, dark, and handsome. Okay, so that is triple emphasis. So I explored a few ideas on using triple emphasis. Okay, so the student, okay, so that's the first thing. Okay, vocabulary. Then we look at the past tense forms. How many past tense forms are there? So we look at all the sentences. Okay, we went by sentences, and then we see, is there any simple present tense or not? Yes, we notice. Which part was in simple present tense? The one in the inverted, the direct speech. You see the direct speech, there are 2 of them. So we notice. So from when we explore this one by one, the students know, oh, okay, when we write a story, the story must be in past tense. But when you're putting in the direct speech must be in present tense, because they are talking to one another. You are trying to say what they were talking. So we explored that. And then after looking at all the tenses, we look at the tenses and we saw past tense and past continuous, and we discuss why some part is past tense, why some part is in past perfect, and some in past continuous, we discuss. And if you see, this one would also be continued in Form 5, yeah? So when you teach them this in Form 4 already, when you go to Form 5, it would be easier for them. But yeah, 70% of them will forget it. Very true. 70% of them, after 1 year, when you do this thing again in another writing task in Form 5, they will forget it. Okay, and you have to remind them. Okay, remember in Form 4 we wrote a story, writing narrative. Remember the cold, dark, and quiet. Remember at that time you all said Mr. Mohana, tall, dark and handsome. You bring in all these ideas, only then they will remember again. Oh yes, we did that. Okay, so now, so we have explored the vocabulary, then we have explored the forms of sentences, the tenses we have explored. Then we also looked at the sequence connectors. Okay, the linking words. Okay, the linking words, if you see in the textbook, page 33, the linking words given to them, there are 4 types of linking words and phrases. Time, result and consequences, cause and reason, and emphasis. So we look for all these 4. The writer of this task used all these 4 or not? Okay, we look for it. Which one is time? Which one is for result and consequence? Which one is cause and reason? Which one is emphasis? So what you can do is you can get a Sharpie. You can actually print this essay out. Okay, you can retype and print it out. Okay, you use a Sharpie or you use a colored pen. You just ask the students to underline all the past tense form, circle all the new vocabulary. Okay, draw a box on direct speech. Okay, and then ask them to do different. Okay, draw flowery clouds on phrasal verb, for example. Okay, no, and underline past continuous tense, for example. Or you can, if you have the Sharpie like my panitia, we bought Sharpie, you know, the 7-colored Sharpie. So for past tense, I will ask them to use black. Present tense, past continuous, I ask them to use blue. Past perfect, I ask them to use green. So you see, they can differentiate. We can differentiate. So that's how we do the task. So we ask them to differentiate the different forms. Okay, but you cannot do that in the textbook. That's why I would print that out. Okay, I will type it and print that out for my students, for them to understand the essay better. So when you explore that, the essay in detail with them, rather than just reading it, it would be easier for the students to write a similar essay. Okay, another thing I did was, okay, for the writing task, this is what the students did. They completed the essay as a follow-up lesson. Once they completed the essay, this is the task sheet that I've given them. First, I asked them to write their essay. So they finished writing their essay. They brought the essay to school today. They pasted in the column that I have given here. So after they pasted in the column here, I asked them, this is a 10 to 15 minutes task only, because I did listening today. So what I did was, this is a 10 to 15 minute task. So for 45 minutes, I did my listening task. This one I did with 15 minutes. I asked them to paste their essay. I know if you don't ask your students to get prepared, the pasting itself will take 20 minutes. So plan your essay properly, because some of them will be running around the class looking for scissors, looking for glue. So make sure they have it all with them, or else you can always bring your magic box. I have my magic box, which I have everything inside, to make sure things that get done faster. Okay, now once they have done this task sheet, they exchange with their partners. Okay, they exchange with their partners. Okay, their partners will check their work. For example, their partner will do task 1, task 2, task 3, task 4, task 5 on their essay. Their partner will to underline all the past tense forms. When I say all the past tense form here, they will underline past continuous, past perfect, past tense form. Then they will also circle all the linking words. Okay, and when I gave them this writing task, I asked them to think of one triple emphasis and use anywhere in the essay. So I asked them to identify whether the friend has used the triple emphasis. And then I asked them to write interesting vocabulary used in the story. If the student didn't use, I just leave it empty. Then, after they finish task 1, 2, 3, and 4, they're supposed to show what they have found. Each other, they compare their essays. And the friends, they will discuss. Okay, you see, you have not identified one cohesive device that I use here. Okay, you see, there's one past tense form that I have used, you didn't use here. Okay, and I also asked them to draw a box on the parts where the student have used direct speech. Okay, now after they have discussed, before they submit return the paper to their friends, they would write what do they like about the essay. For example, if they have learned anything new from the essay, if they have understood, if they have gained something, if they find anything interesting in the essay, they write it here. And then they will return their essay to their friends. Their friends will look at everything. If their friend is happy with everything, they will submit it to me. Okay, it is, I did one whole day with this essay. Today, I just took some part from a short period of time in my lesson to do this so that the students would remember how to write a story using past tense. Okay, using a story, using this idea here in Unit 2B. Okay, if you see whatever that I have been explaining to you, whatever that I have been doing in my class, it is all in our SOW. It's just that I'm doing it in a different way because I do not want my lesson to be focused too much on textbook. At the same time, I take the ideas from textbook because I know whatever that I am emphasizing on is important for their SPM. Okay, so when they write, okay, for example, next month we are having a mid-year examination and we will have a question on narrative writing a recount. Okay, for example, I would say that was the something that and it will indicate a past tense. So meaning to say students should be able to recall what they have learned here in writing a story to apply it in their essay writing. Okay, so that is for 2B. Okay, that is for 2B, the writing part. Okay, now this is for the good class. Yeah, this is for the good class. For the weak class, I did a different task sheet. Okay, this is for the weak class. Okay, so this is for the weak class. I did it in a different way because I want to have a more scaffolding thing. So meaning to say, I give them 3 questions. Okay, and if you see, after I go through the entire essay, all the things I have gone through with them. So what I did was, I started discussing the essay with them. So I give them this task sheet. First, I ask them to complete the task before doing the writing part. Okay, the writing I didn't ask them to write 150 words. Yeah, I just asked them to do in about 100 words. Okay, for example, when did it happen? So meaning to say, I want them to start. Okay, this is a relatively weak class. So I tell them, okay, when did it happen? You can put last Sunday, last week, 2 weeks ago. Who was with Susan? Susan was with her friends or what? Okay, with her family. Okay, what had they been doing? Okay, so meaning to say, what activity were they involved in? So they have to refer to the what happened so that they would be able to answer question number 3. So I give them 3 choices. One of them was injured while trekking in the jungle. Another one, they were lost somewhere. And I give them an option. If you don't want to use these 2, you have to come up with your own idea and write it down. Okay. And I also use some of simple vocabulary. I didn't want to use triple emphasis with them, but I still want to introduce something to them. For example, shaking like a leaf. Okay, shaking like a leaf is, I think, my weak students can handle that. Okay, provided I guide them how to do it. Okay, for example, terrified, scared. Okay, so I just do a scaffolding on how to use these words. Okay, now done with this. Okay, before they start writing, I discuss with them how they want to go about. So then we go back into the story, and I ask the students to identify whatever things that they have found. For example, the direct speech, where you want to put your direct speech. Okay, the form of tenses that need to use. Okay, of course, for weak students, it won't be very perfect. But at the same time, they would be able to handwrite something here. Okay, and for weak students, we want them to write something for SPM, right? So this is one way I'm doing with my weak students. Okay, giving them extra support. Okay, at times there will be more questions, yeah, and one question may lead to another. Okay. Okay, any questions so far? No questions?
No questions in the chat box. How about teachers? If you have, you can unmute your mic and you can ask your questions directly to Mr. Mohana as well.
All right, doesn't matter. I just continue. If there's any question, I'll just stop by to answer. Yeah.
Okay, sure.
Okay. So that is the first. Okay, so that is some of my examples of my classroom writing activities, which was geared towards SPM writing. Okay, these are my classroom writing activities which are geared towards SPM writing. Okay, next, I don't really rely on SPM writing textbook alone. I also have my teacher non-textbook lesson which I fully utilize. And when we had our MCO last year, for my teacher, a non-textbook lesson, I did quite a number of other writing activities. Okay, and which are also kind of classroom projects. Yeah. Okay, for example, there is one unit in our textbook asking us to do a project on the 7 wonders of the world. Okay, I think it's unit 4. Okay, asking us to identify the 7 wonders of the world. Okay, if you look at page 131, yeah, page 4, 131. Okay, so I asked my students to do a research. Okay, do research about one of the 7 wonders of the world that the modern one, for example, Taj Mahal and so on. So I asked them, okay, because the textbook we have already explored Mount Everest, Grand Canyon, Victoria Falls, Great Barrier Reef. We have explored all this. So I asked them to do the man-made, okay, for example, Taj Mahal and so on, Great Wall of China as the 7 wonders of the world. So I asked them to do their research and come out with a booklet. Okay, it's also a writing project. Okay, this is more towards creativity. So this one I did with my good classes. So if you have good classes, okay, students who need to be like, the students in our good classes, they need to be given some sort of challenges like this so that they can explore their creativity. So this is when I give them this kind of stuff, ask them to explore about the 7 wonders of the world and then come up with the ideas, or whatever ideas that they can actually use to build their writing skills. Okay? Okay, for example, another task that was given to them was this: 10 ways to kill your English teacher. Okay, so this is a kind of fun activity that I did with my students, which turned out really well. You know, my students also, they enjoyed doing this. Okay, but I didn't ask them to look at it literally. I didn't ask them to look at it literally. But I asked them to think in a creative, out of a box way, how they want to kill me. Okay, so some of them they understood the idea, not to take literally, and some of them did take the idea literally and they wanted to burn me, they want to pour petrol and burn me. Okay, they had some sort of ideas, 10 ways to kill me. Okay, which I read. Okay, so this was a fun activity. So what I told them was, look, you are a group of journalists, you are writers, you are going to write for a magazine. So I want you to write a magazine-like article and come up with creative ideas of 10 ways to kill your English teacher. So this is what they come up with. Okay, so this is another one. So this was all done during the MCO period. Yeah, we had an extended MCO last year, right? Very long MCO. So, you know, the good class students, they always turn up and then they are very obedient and you can do a lot of activities with them. And the week one, they will like, if like there's 25 in the class, they will, if at least 10 turn up, you will be like very excited, right? So this is the good class students who came out. So these are the ones that who have, some of them have the C1, C2 English proficiency level, okay, CEFR level, whom I'm not so worried about. So with them, I go beyond what we do in classroom and come up with some extra activities, fun writing activities that they can do. Okay, but however, please be reminded, it should not be like do not take so much time to do activities like this and overlook your SOW, yeah, whatever activities that have been prescribed in your SOW. Your SOW is very important. Following your SOW is very important. These ideas, these activities can come in during your non-textbook lesson. Okay, now, wait, I have another thing to share with you. Another way, okay, if you are doing, wait, let me just stop sharing it here. Okay, so another way that you can use your writing, you can do writing tasks if you are planning to, if you are planning to do your writing task, let's say online. Okay, we are already going back to school doing face-to-face. But okay, since most of you are in Miri, I'm sure many of your students may have access to internet and you still may want to do some online activities. Okay, some online probably writing activities. So I'm going to share with you one website where you can actually do your writing activities. For example, so if you have some extra writing activities that you want to do your students, you can actually do it here. Okay, you can do it here. Okay, I'm sharing screen again. Okay, so this is what we call Wakelet. Okay, wakelet.com. Okay, it is a website where you can keep a lot, store most of your work, your for example, material. You can store your materials. You can keep your what they call modules. Like for example, if you have soft copy of your module, you can save it here. Okay, it's kind of like a Facebook page as well, but this is not exactly like a Facebook page. Okay, it's an interactive page, and this is where I do a lot of online activities with my students as well. Okay, let me share with you one of my classroom activities. In the beginning of the year, what I did was, okay, for example, okay, besides Google Classroom, this is one platform where I do activities with my students as well. So this is one activity that I did, writing activity that I did with my students in the beginning of the year, where my students had to, because the four group was relatively new. I didn't know any one of them. So what I wanted to do is I wanted them to introduce themselves. Okay, so I gave them the Wakelet link. I asked them to go to Wakelet and put a picture of themselves and write something about them. Okay, so this is how they write. Okay, you see, this is how the students introduce themselves. Okay, they put all their pictures. And then they write a little bit about them. Okay, so if you are planning to do an out of the box activity, you are planning to do something like you are so tired with doing a classroom writing activity, you may want to switch to online activity sometime. For example, you want to do online a take-home activity as online activity or some sort of blended activity, you can use this. Okay, you can always use Wakelet. Okay, let me share with you another one. My Form 5 collection. Okay, 5, 10, 8. Okay, this is another one that I did, another writing activity. They have to write a short paragraph. Okay, this was my first lesson with my Form 5 students. Okay, a writing lesson. Okay, for example, write a short paragraph in about 60 to 70 words, starting from the statement above. Okay, I wish. You need to use a picture to relay your write-up. You may use any picture that is related to what you're saying. Please refer to the example given. So I've given one example, and based on the example, the students, they come, they put in a picture, and then they write a narration, a simple narration, what they wish for. Okay, there's nothing depressing in here. They all are very fun going, so I don't see any of them like have a shared something that is very sad or anything. It was all very general things that they did share. But this is a good way for me to start up. So meaning to say, if you want to, like, for example, if you want to have a writing lesson, probably prior to the lesson, you can ask your students to do some write-up, a free writing activity online, okay, a free writing activity online, and then you can actually share that like in your classroom. Okay, that would be also be fun with your students. Okay, now for the Form 5 writing activities, yeah, let us look at the Form 5 writing activities. Okay, if you have your English download textbook, okay, I have it here. Wait, let me just share with you the first part. Okay, I'm only going to do with you the, which one is it? Yeah. Okay, now you look at activity page 27. Okay, the writing activity, writing a story again. Okay, so this one is quite close. Okay, if you see page 27 of your English download textbook, yeah, unit 2, where you are supposed to write a story. Okay, meaning to say, as Mark was about to throw away the old bottle, he saw that there was a piece of paper inside it. Okay, there was a piece of paper inside it. Okay, now this is very much close to the full blast textbook that were the task that we discussed in 2B. Yeah, with Susan will never forget what happened that day. So you see, it is actually quite a relating task. It's just that when they go to Form 5, it becomes an extended activity. In Form 4, we focus more on not so the vocabulary was not so difficult. The sentence structure was not difficult. But when you go to Form 5, okay, you see you are given the 5 senses. Okay, you are given the 5 senses. You have to explore the use of the 5 senses in your writing. Okay, so meaning to say, the writing task from Form 4, every unit, if you compare from Form 4 to Form 5, it is building the skill. It is building the skill so that they will be able to reach the SPM level. It's just us teachers how much we are working to strengthen the skill so that they won't forget. That is the most important thing. Okay, when we build these sentence structures. Okay, for example, if you look at this, before they write the story about Mark, who was about to throw away the bottle when he saw that there was a piece of paper inside it. Now, before they write this essay, they're supposed to read about Anne knocked on the door of the house and she was determined to find out who lived there. And there are 2 things that she must include, which is an old woman, and then there was a surprise. The surprise element must be there. And also, Mark, also, you must have a message or a map. Meaning to say the bottle must have a message or a map, and then the story must have a surprise element. So meaning to say, you look at the story of Anne and you do this activity. And when you do this activity, you can have extended activities. Okay, besides identifying the 5 senses, sight, hearing, smell, taste, and touch, you can also add on what other ways that students can try. Okay, I have made a YouTube video based on this. Okay, I have made a YouTube video based on this. You can actually refer to that YouTube video. You can actually refer to that YouTube video. I've gone step by step, okay, for this writing task. And I've also given at the end of the writing task, I have also given an example, okay, how to develop the essay with an example towards the end. So if you see, this is what we need to do. Do not be as teachers, don't be too ambitious. Okay, work deeply on what has been given here. Okay, meaning to say, in this text, okay, it's 4 paragraphs, and then you have direct speech. It was the idea has been developed in past tense. Do not go and get the O-level essays, all those 2 difficult essays that are too difficult for students to handle. Just work on this, especially when we are working with mediocre and low proficiency. This would be even quite difficult for them to handle. They may not understand what is sequence connectors. They may not understand what is linking words and phrases. But if right from the first English lesson in Form 4 until the last English lesson in Form 5, I mean the writing lesson, you stress on linking words, connectors, vocabulary. If you have been stressing on all these most important aspects, I'm sure by the time you do the one writing task when you practice for SPM, they would remember this. Meaning to say, we have to keep on reminding them. Okay, whenever we do the writing task, whatever that has been learned before need to be strengthened, need to be reminded. So this is what we have to do. So for this one, if you see the writing task on end, okay, so you have to identify the 5 senses. So ask the students to identify the 5 senses. Ask them how they can develop the ideas on the 5 senses in different way. If very good students, they may come up. If they may come up with some with beautiful ideas. If they are somebody who's been reading a lot of storybooks, they may come up with a lot of ideas, creative phrases. But not so one, they may struggle. Mediocre, they may not know. Okay, so that with them, we may just use simple simple ways of developing the 5 senses. Meaning to say, just work along the idea that they have here. Okay, so the textbook have also given to us the language bank. Okay, so use these. These are the things that will be assessed. Time expressions, ways of speaking. You see different forms of vocabulary, feelings. Okay, you see they have different verbs given here. Feelings, senses. Okay, these are the things that comes in the marking scheme. These are the things that the markers will later look for when they write in SPM. So there is no need for us to actually teach specifically for SPM when we have already been building the skill right from the beginning. Okay, we continue to build, we continue to strengthen the skills. When we are doing writing skill, we continue to develop the writing skill with the students, okay, so that it continue to develop. It's just that be focused, meaning to say, if you are writing an essay, please focus on the content of the essay. See what is there in the essay that the students can take. For example, how the cohesive devices is used, how are the sentences developed, what are the tenses has been used. Okay, these are the details that we need to work on. Don't just read. I have seen like even some teachers, they just read the essay. Okay, so this is the sample. Based on the sample, write the essay. At the end, what the students learn? They won't learn anything. Until the end of the year, they may not know what is cohesive devices. So what happens? Start memorizing essays. We don't want that to happen. We want to understand ways to write essays. And I'm sure not all students are low proficiency learners. A lot of them are mediocres, and these mediocres, we can actually help them to build up their writing skill. So one way to build up their writing skill is use whatever they have in the textbook given. Use that to develop. And as I said, I've shown you examples. You may use all these ideas to actually what I wanted to say. You may use all these ideas to actually be able to actually make them somebody who can write these essays. Okay, now any questions? No questions? And yeah, actually, if you see teachers, the textbook, if you see teachers, the textbook, it comes with a lot of grammar activities. So please pay attention to the grammar activities. And sometimes the grammar activities, for example, if you see Unit 2, life grade mysteries. You see Unit 2, life grade mysteries. Before you do the writing task, and the speaking task I do next week, you do the writing task. Even before you do the writing task, you have a grammar activities: past simple, past continuous, used to, would, or be, get used to. Okay, these are the forms of tenses which may be useful when you write the story, because the story is going to be in past tense, right? As Mark was about to throw away the bottle. So if you want the students to develop something in past tense, meaning to say you explore these grammar activities first, make sure you understand these grammar activities, do your language awareness activity, make sure they understand this, okay? And then you go to this. Try to learn whatever they learn in the grammar, okay, whatever they learn in the grammar, ask them to apply into the writing. That is the purpose of how if you see the activities have been arranged. Some activities, okay, you see the writing part comes towards the end. Why the writing part comes towards the end? Because all the ideas that that needed to develop the writing skills can be developed in all the previous activities. Okay, in all the previous activities. So if you want your students to write only with good grammar first, you don't want to focus on vocabulary, fine. Before you go to the grammar activity, you should work on the, before to the writing activity, you work on, you have your grammar lesson and focus on this. And when you go to the writing, you bring in all the ideas that you learned in the grammar lesson into the writing. So that would help students to understand. You see, even my students have this issue, you know. When I do grammar lesson, when we do grammar in isolation, we just do, okay, today we learn past simple, past continuous. Okay, explain all the past simple, past continuous on page 21, the explanation, we explain everything. Yes, they understand. And then exercise 3, 4, they can do. Exercise page 23, 3, 4, they can do. Yes, because they understood. Past simple, past continuous. In only, for example, page 21, exercise 4, they need to only use past simple and past continuous. So they will just put in all the past tense form and past continuous form. Now, when constructing sentences, they may not be able to use past tense, past simple and past continuous. Why? That is sentence construction. This is grammar drilling. That is why when you do your grammar activity, after your grammar activity, when you go to the writing activity, that's when you ask your students to refer back to the grammar task. And this can also be part of your writing activity as well, use the grammar usage. Okay, any question? No question also?
No questions here for the chat.
Is everyone here? Hello.
Teachers, are you all here?
Yes, yes, we are here.
Yes. You know what I would ask my students to do? To make sure that they are all there, I ask them to type, okay, all of you type yes. Okay, all of them will type yes on the chat box. None of them want to open their camera, you see. And I also don't advise them to open their on their cameras because the data is a problem. Okay, thank you. Okay,
Mohana, yeah, you have the response coming up in the chat. Yes, don't worry, we are here.
Okay, teachers, anything that you want to ask concerning, okay, like even if it's not about writing, okay, anything that you want to ask about SPM Form 5 teaching and learning, I can answer as much as I know. Whatever I know, I can help. I can explain to you.
Okay, teachers, we have these two questions. Since we are going to use the new format this year.
Still thinking of a question? How are your students adapting to the, okay, so can we can't possibly have to work with students. I don't need ideas on how students can work together. Yes. Okay, I have some questions coming in. Okay, we can't possibly have group work with students. So I do need some ideas on how students can work together. Okay, like what I did was with my students today. If you see the activity that I did today, which one? Yeah, the one that I shared with you just now. Wait. I actually asked my students. I don't do group work as well at this point of time. I don't do group work as well at this point of time. What I do is, the most I ask them to do is, I would just ask them to, as long as they are 1 meter away from one another, the most I do is a pair work, and the pair work with a certain practice of social distancing. Okay, that's what we can do. And you don't have to, so what you can do is get mini whiteboards. If you don't have mini whiteboards, what you can do is you can cut mahjong papers into 2. So meaning to say each student you can give 1. Okay, you can give each student 1. Ask them to come up with their own work. Like the one that I showed to you just now was an individual work. The advantages and disadvantages, that was individual work. Okay, at the same time, students also get to see other people's work, isn't it? So those are the kind of things that I do. So at this point of time, yeah, I also don't do group work. You know, you can get someone, you know, if you do group work, okay, and like my school is known for parents being complaining to JPN and PPD and so on, so we don't dare. The most things we do is we just ask students to sit 1 meter apart and then talk. And when I do my speaking activity, when I want to do my pair work, what I do is I will take them to the field. I take them to the field, ask them to stand 1 meter apart from one another, and I ask them to speak to one another. I don't do it in class. Okay. How do you encourage your kids to read at home as well? Ha ha ha. If you ask me, nobody read. Now today we were having discussion about in unit 2, in unit I think from 5. Okay, so we were actually discussing about which job is more important, doctor. What do you call that? Singers, which one is least important, singers or actors? So we were actually discussing which one is least important. The most important, most of them say, the world of sports, yeah, the world of sport, page 32, English download. So we were actually discussing which one was least important, actors or doctors. So when sorry, actors or singers. So as we were discussing, many of them said singers. So I posed a question, I threw a question to them. I asked them, if you, let's say the duration that you stayed at home during the MCO, what did you spend your time doing the most? Did you spend your time listening to song or watching movies on any means like Amazon Prime or Netflix or Astro? What did you do most? Okay, so some of them say that we actually did, most of them actually watch television. So we say singer is least important. So because most of them spend time watching movies, not listening to songs. And that's when I asked, okay, so most of you were actually listening to songs and watching movies. How many of you read books? How many of you read books during the one whole year? So I have one student putting up hand and say, teacher, I was reading book. I asked, how many books did you read throughout the year during the MCO? Teacher, only one book. And she said that that was quite a thick book. I read that, and that's only 1%, and that's from my best class. So the reading culture is dying. We are trying our best. It's all supposed to be coming from. We can promote reading. I do group promoting to my students, but okay, yes, we cannot have group work when we are practicing social distancing, Cikgu. Yes, we cannot do group work. It's very that's what we have to keep in mind. But try, if you are having a discussion, try to maintain a discussion with maintain the distance with the students. And if you're taking picture for documentation, please do not share on any social media. Okay? Because anything, people can say anything. So what you can do is you can do group work with social distancing, but share anything. Okay, they don't share anything. But just now, the essay that I showed to you, actually they exchange papers. Even that also they cannot be doing actually, because they might be transmitting the virus. Okay, how important is word limit in our coming SPM? Okay, that's a good question. Now, if you see, there is nothing about word limit stated in the what the instructions for examiners. But the word limit is important. Why? Okay, for task 1, if you see the task 1, it's as I say, it's an A1 task, writing an email in about 80 words. Writing an email in about 80 words. So when you write in an email about 80 words, why do you want to write 120 or 200 words if you can complete the email in about 80 words? Now, okay, so okay, wait, a lot of questions and discussion going on. So let me answer the word limit first. So you only have 1 hour 30 minutes to complete the 3 tasks. So if you see in 1 hour 30 minutes, you have one essay which is in about 80 words, another essay in about 125 to 150 words, and another essay in about 200 to 250 words. Now, they did not say that the email must be in about 80 words only and below 80 words. You can write more than that, but would students have time to complete it? If let's say the email they write in about 200 words, The part 2, they write in about 300 words. And the part 3, they write in about, let's say they want to write 400 words. Would they have time? Okay, this is one question that we have to keep in mind. Okay, it is not, the scheme of work, the writing assessment doesn't say anything about the word limit. It's said in about 80 words. Meaning to say, for that task, question 1, 80 words is enough for you to get the score because it is an A2 task. Okay, it is an A2 task where it sees your writing proficiency in replying an email. Sorry, it's a B1 task. Sorry, it's a B1 task. So, meaning to say B1 task, you only need to answer the questions that is given with, of course, hi, how are you? How are you? I hope you're doing well. Okay, and then answering all the questions. That's important. And all these can be handled between 80 to 100 words. Okay, like I've never heard, so far I did not hear that marks will be deducted if you write more than what has been given. But can your students in 1 hour, 30 minutes handle this? Like even my students, okay, when we did last year-end examination, we did a full paper for paper 1, paper 2, reading and writing. We did a full paper. What happened was I find that my students, even from the good class students, they had problem completing the final part. Why? The second part, they spent so much time doing, although it says about 125 on to 50, they tend to write so much because they know a lot of things about that particular question. They tend to write so much that it took so much time. Okay, and they did not write well the part 3. Okay, actually the part 3, although it's 200 to 250 words, it's difficult to score because the language level is higher, the marks grading is higher, the band is higher. Okay, so meaning to say, although it's 200 to 250 words, let's say even to get a 3 for all the components for the marking is not easy. Keep in mind, as I said, if the student language level for task 1, they can get all 5, not necessarily with the same language proficiency, they write task 3, they can get 5 all. No, because 5, for task 3, it requires a higher level of language usage. Okay, writing a review. Okay, so can we look at a book review? Okay, what I had problem with a review with my students is most of them did not. Okay, last year we did just sharing with you lah, Cikgu, before I share the technique writing review. What happened with my students last year was when I give them a task of writing a review, a book review towards the year-end examination, many of them wrote book review, very good, very well they did. But what happened was the book review, 90% of the review was the synopsis of the story. Okay, was the synopsis of the story. So we have one book review here in our textbook, which is the Ola Bola task, isn't it? Which page is it? I did with my students, the Ola Bola task. Okay, yeah, it's on page 92. Okay, this is what you do. Okay, if it's a film review, okay, yes, what Miss Elaine said, I think this cohort is very lucky because there is a sort of like a flow to what they did in the lower form with what they are going to face for their aspect. Yes, even the MOET examination is also similar with similar format. But yeah, so I agree with you. Yes, the examination, it has all, the format for the examinations are almost all the same. Okay, it's just the language level is different. So here we are looking at the language proficiency. For example, for MOET marking, the marking might be different. The language level that they are looking might be at the MOET level. Okay, for SPM, we are looking at, you see the textbook is a B1 plus textbook, right? So we are looking at a B1 plus level. Okay, for MOET, probably it might be looking at higher than a B2, right? So, okay, let's coming back to the review. So if you see a book review here on page 92, sorry, a movie review, this is how you write a review. You introduce the movie. Okay, then you introduce the actors who are starring in it and what is special about the movie, and then the background of the story. Okay, what is the background of the story? When you give the background of the story. You don't write the entire synopsis. Tell the students, remind the student not to write the entire synopsis of the story. That is not a review. Okay? And what is special in the film? What is special in the film? Anything special, for example, a special appearance by a Malaysian teacher in the movie. Okay, that is a special feature in the movie. They use any computer graphics in the movie. That is a special feature. Something that cannot be found in other movies. You can find in this movie. Okay, so how is this movie? What are the special features in this movie? That is one thing that you need to add. And you have to also give, okay, recommend movie to your friend or not. Okay, that is one thing. So that is the 4 things that you need to include in about, okay, if it's a film review, it might go into part 3 tasks. Okay, part 3 tasks. So you most probably you can write 4 to 5 paragraphs. Okay, and these 4 to 5 paragraphs, make sure they write different. What I mean by different is the different flow, just like given here. If a movie, you need to have the main cast, everything explained, and then you need to give a little bit of the film's background of the story, but don't give the ending. If you see there's no movie review professional websites here, if you go to professional websites, no professional websites give a full review with the ending as well. So when you review, do not give the ending at all, as well. And I'm sure in Form 3, they have learned restaurant, how to review on restaurant, right? If I'm not mistaken, Form 3 or Form 2. Okay, and I think Form 4 also there's a review. Okay, so and then as I say, special feature, and then would you recommend? So this is the flow. This is the flow. Okay, now if you see here, if you are asking for techniques to write a review, now what the technique that we can use here is the tenses that you're going to use here. Look at the tenses that have been used for this task. Okay, the past tense or simple present tense. These are the things that if I want to explore a technique with my students, these are the things that I would explain to my students. What are the components need to be added into the book review? Okay, what are the tenses need to be used? Okay, what kind of vocabulary that is needed for a review? Okay, you see a review where they have specific vocabulary. Yeah? For example, the highlight of the movie, the feature of the film, special effects, characters. These are some specific vocabulary when you write a movie review. Okay, so you can go and Google, just type vocabulary for movie review, vocabulary for book review. You will come across a lot of, you may come across a chart on somebody's page on Pinterest. You can just take that. You can just identify which are the words that you think your students can handle. Okay, your students can handle. You use that to include as a part of vocabulary for your review. Okay, and at the same time, do not divert away from the real idea that has been given in the textbook here. Okay, any other questions? Okay. Okay, compared to the old format from 180 word limit in lower secondary to, okay. Okay, any suggestion for time limit for each task? Task 1, task 2, task 3, SPM writing paper. No, oh yes, no spoiler, thank you. Yes, I have the template, but I have not shared on my blog yet. When it's on my blog, then I will be able to share. Okay, it's not on my blog yet. So if I have it on my blog, I will share with you. You can just look at, go to my blog anytime. If it's there, it's there. Okay, so yeah, if any suggestions for time limit for each task. Okay, so for the task, I would suggest the first task, this is what I told my students. Okay, the first task you can take about 15 minutes. The second task you can take about 30 minutes. The next task you can take about 45 minutes. Okay, the last task you need more time. Okay, the first task in about 15 minutes. Oh, okay, my blog. Wait, I share with you my blog, yeah. Okay, this is my blog. Okay, this is my blog, and this is my YouTube channel. Okay, you can also go to my Facebook page. My Facebook page, English language. I have a specific page for Facebook, English Vibes. Okay, and then my blog also English Vibes. My YouTube channel also English Vibes. Okay, so you can go to any of these pages. Okay, my blogspot I've not updated for quite some time, but I will keep on updating. I've already uploaded some task sheets from last year for revision. I will start uploading some task sheets that I've been doing with my students. So you can get it from there. So you can visit the blog from time to time if there's any updates. Okay, so far, I think that is all for me. Any other questions?
No questions there. Okay, how are you so great?
No, I'm not. I'm just an ordinary human being. Oh, thank you, Chegu, for using my videos. Glad to know that you have been using my videos. And for next week, I will be doing reading, right? So for the reading, I will do some parts I'm reading, and then I will also add in for speaking task and listening task a little bit for both speaking and listening. Yeah, for next week's task. Okay, so we will do most of it. We will do reading, and then some of it we will do listening, and then a little bit of speaking if we have time. And teachers, don't be afraid, don't worry about what's going to happen in the new SPM or anything. Whatever it is, just continue doing whatever they have given us. Okay, whatever that the materials have been given by the Ministry of Education. Just use all these materials, okay, the textbook. Okay, I'm sure if they have asked us to actually use this textbook. They want us to go to classroom-based teaching. They do not want us to be too exam-oriented. They would definitely not come out with something that is alien from what we have been practicing in from our OW and textbook. So you don't have to worry. However, if you need to familiarize your students with the SPM format, yes, you have to familiarize them. As we are teaching, when we are teaching, we also need to, from time to time, familiarize our students with the SPM format. So you have one sampler given by the Ministry of Education. I have book here. This is book that has been installed recently, out since last week, I think. So complete a 4 complete set of SPM model papers. We have all the 4 skills: reading, writing, listening, and speaking. And it comes with audio, links to the audio. The audios are all online. So if you need to familiarize your students with listening tasks, reading tasks, and writing tasks, and the writing tasks, we have complete answers here, which is pitched at B2 level, the highest. The B2 level, the highest. So you don't find too many difficult essays here. Something a mediocre and weak student can handle. We had kept them in mind. So you can have this book, get this book if you want to. It is affordable. The price is only at $7.90. It's by EPH publication, yeah. So you can get it at any popular stores near you. So if you want to get for your students, you can order it from the salesperson for your school. Okay, so far this is one book that I've released to help students for their SPM to get them familiarized. Okay, it's very closely designed based on the Form 5 SPM format that was given to us. Okay, and I think if you don't have any questions, thank you, Miss Helen. How's your debate? Are you still doing debate? Wow, forever doing debate, huh? Cannot retire, right? Same goes to me. It's like always debate that they don't give us anything else.
cannot run away. We are always in debate.
Exactly.
Yeah, Anthony, myself. You cannot run away. Alex is also in debate.
Yeah, you see, once in debate, forever in debate, wherever you go, they'll immediately put you in debate. You can't help it.
Okay.
Okay, teachers, thank you so much. Thank you so much for watching my videos.
Your videos are being shared everywhere already, Cikgu Mohana.
From time to time, since the school has started, I will try to make more videos. Okay, hopefully I have time. Okay, thank you so much. I'll see you all next week.
Thanks, Mohana. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mohana, for the informative sharing just now. It was quite interesting. Okay, you shared a few activities, but like what Mohana said earlier, we need to do some changes in it, simplify it according to our students' level. Different students have different way of learning as well. Okay, so thank you very much to all the teachers also for spending your time to be with us here today for this sharing this afternoon. Okay, teachers, I have shared the link for the feedback. Please take a minute or two to give your feedback. Okay, we will give you a minute or two. Can you please fill in the feedback first? Then after this, I'll be sharing the attendance link. Okay, done, Madam Regina. Thank you. Those who have filled in, thank you very much. Those who have not, please take a minute or two to do so. Okay, and here I've shared the attendance link. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for us to bring this session to a close. Okay, it was nice to have all of you with us here today. We hope that this sharing will be beneficial to everyone who have attended the session. Okay, don't forget, as what Mr. Mohana has said, he'll be with us again next week, next Thursday, the 15th of April at 2:30 p.m. for another sharing, but this time it will be touching on reading, a bit on speaking as well. Okay, so till we meet you again next week, thank you from me, Regina Thomas Sadasivan, my colleagues, Valia Nagreg, and Swaranjit Kaur. Okay, so till we meet again next week, thank you and goodbye. Thank you, Mr. Mohana. It was a great sharing. We enjoyed your sharing today.
Thank you, Mohana.
Thank you. I will see you all next week again. Thank you.
Yes, sure. See you next week.
Thanks, Swaran. Bye. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you, Mohana.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you very much, Cikgu Mohana. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.